crowd are on their feet now. This has to be one of the best performances we've seen of the year. Only in the dying minutes will we ever see anything as great as this ever again. Oh, and it's a goal!
Welcome to another edition of Nick's World of Football, and today I have a very special guest called Jim Wood. Jim is the first ever Australian football player to play in any capacity at Bristol Rovers Football Club, and despite what the internet might tell you it was a certain Danny Alsop who played 6 times for Bristol Rovers in 2000/2001 season, but that is not entirely true. So with that introduction, welcome, James, to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Nick. I'm very well, thank you. And it's a very interesting experience to be here.
No, it's interesting researching and finding out about your playing career, both in Australia and in England. And obviously, the main topic for today is the Bristol Rovers connection. So James, tell me, who are you, where you're from, and how you ended up liking football?
Okay, as you said, my name is James Wood, and I was born in a little suburb of Newcastle, New South Wales, called Spears Point. And my early childhood and up until I got into my mid-teens, I lived in a little village that has this, what can we say, an association with Lancashire, and it's a place called Barnsley. And when soccer, and especially junior soccer, he was in one of the next little villages called Young Wallsend, which is now called Edgeworth. His name was John Holden, and he went round all the schools to get players to come and play at Young Wallsend. And so as an 8-year-old, I started my soccer career at Young Wallsend at the grand young age of 8.
No worries. And that photo I've just brought up there, is that the one on the top left? Is that
that's when about an under 14, under 12s or under 14s, that photograph, the top one. And I'm the second from the right at the back, and that's my father behind me.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that was the coach. There you go.
Yeah, coach, manager, they did everything, Nick. They did the washing the shirts and all the rest of it.
Awesome. And now that we're on the subject of Young Wallsend, so some of the photos I can't tell how old you are, but I guess the next one is the yellow and the blue picture.
Okay, that was my first representative team. It was those days just Newcastle Junior Soccer Association. And that was an under-10 representative team, and we won the state championship that year.
Wow, so that's even earlier than Young Wallsend. There you
go. It's earlier than the Young Wallsend photograph, that is correct.
Yeah. And then there's another photo under the biggest one. It looks like you're an American football team because of the big numbers, but I'm sure that's not the case.
Now, that was a Northern New South Wales representative under-19 team, and that year the Australian Championships were at Adelaide, and we flew to Adelaide, participated, but didn't make the grade on the occasion. And one of the most interesting things, there's a couple of interesting things about that photo. The 2 gentlemen sitting down at the front, the one on the left is Tom Dawson. And Tom was the fellow that introduced me to Bert Tann at Bristol Rovers, because Tom and Bert played together for, I'm not 100% sure here, but I think it was Middlesbrough. when Middlesbrough won the FA Cup some many years ago. And the gentleman on the right, the young boy sitting next to him is Colin Curran. And Colin Curran and I come from the same area, but Cole went on to bigger and better things. He had many seasons in Sydney and played for Australia in Australia's ever first World Cup attendance.
Wow.
So there's a couple of quality people in that photograph.
Awesome. And the New South Wales PSAAA, what does PSAAA stand for?
Public Schools Amateur Athletic Association.
Oh, there you go. I thought it was public service announcement.
There, that was the New South Wales team of that year. And we had the distinction of losing to Queensland. One of the rare occasions where the New South Wales PS3A team lost.
And you were there.
We played 3 games, yeah.
Oh, man. Awesome. No, that's great. So talking about Tom Dawson,
yeah.
So how did he enable you to get in touch with Bert Tann, or did he follow you for a while before suggesting it, or how did that work out?
Okay, it was pretty simple, really, because before I went over, Cole Curran, as I just mentioned, and another fellow by the name of Ray Bartz, who played for Australia till he got headbutted at the Sydney Cricket Ground and never played football again. And there's another fellow, I'll think of his name shortly. Anyhow, what was the question again, please, Nick?
No, the question, how did Tom Dawson? Did he suggest to you straight away? Oh, you should be playing in England, or did he follow you? No.
It's just that it was Dougie Johns, Cole Curran, and Ray Bartz. They were sent by one of the other Newcastle clubs, Adamstown, to go and trial with Manchester United. And I thought, gee, that wouldn't be a bad thing to go over to England and have a go, see what happens. And so I mentioned it to Tom, and Tom was very keen about me having a go. However, he said, don't go to a first division club. He said, there is just so much competition. He said, you're better off going to a lower division. And if you make a name for yourself there, then there's always scouts out looking and you never know what can happen. And he said, one of my old teammates, Bert Tann, he's the manager at Bristol Rovers, and that is where I suggest you go. So you follow the advice, and I'm pleased I did.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, nothing's changed. There's always competition and stuff, but here is a person that was in your life that could see a sensible way, a sensible pathway to the game in England. So, well, that's awesome. So, I'm assuming that it wasn't just a quick flight over from Sydney to England. How many stopovers did you make? What did you do on the plane? Who did you meet on the plane, etc., etc.?
Yeah, well, in 1966, the top mode of transport in the aeroplane scene was a Boeing 707 that generally stopped about 4 or 5 times between Sydney and London, and had to refuel. So your flight time all up was somewhere around 36 hours. However, getting back to part of your question, when I left Sydney and we got up to our cruising altitude and all that sort of stuff, and was fed either lunch or whatever, the lady serving me said to me, what are you going to England for? And I said, I hope to break into professional soccer if I'm good enough. She said, oh, we got another footballer down the back here. Would you like to meet him? I said, oh, yes, for sure. So she takes me down and Mike Sullivan was his name, but he wasn't a football player as they talk about in England. He was a rugby league player, and he was a very good one. And he not only played, I don't know what club he played for in England, but he also played for England. And he did a couple of guest appearances out here in Sydney. And we just happened to then sit together all the way to Hong Kong before I disembarked from my first ever experience of a foreign city. Yes, Mike Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan. Now, he had a one objective and one objective only, didn't he? Because that's what I'm trying to get to. Take out.
Yes. Australia's rugby league had his term was the Prince of Centres, and his name was
Reg Grasnier.
Gaznia. And what Mike Sullivan told me, that every time that Australia won the scrum, before it went from the half to the 5/8 to the centre, he would take off and go straight for Gaznia, hoping to get there at the same time as the ball. And his objective was to lay him out.
Lay him out, throw him. I did a bit of research because I think it's nice to mix when you mentioned the rugby story and stuff. That's probably today's equivalent of meeting one of the top players in the sport. And you don't get that opportunity often. But yeah, there you go. All right, so you arrive in England in amongst a certain tournament.
I think it was called the 1966 World Cup. And I can still remember arriving at my, this won't surprise many older Australians, a little place in London called Earl's Court. And there was a hostel there that all the expats from Oz, that's where they headed for in the first instance till they got their bearings. And I arrived at my accommodation in Earl's Court. And after I settled in and got a bit organised, I started making inquiries about the World Cup game for the day. And it was at Wembley, of course. And it was England versus Argentina. And you've got to think back to, in my case, to 1966. I never left Australia before. How brave was I to head out to Wembley? And I thought, no, I won't. I'll play it safe and I'll watch it on telly. And so I watched England and Argentina play a brutal, terrible game of football. However, the result was the right one. And Jeff Hurst scored one goal, and that's all you need when you are playing is to win. And it was a very memorable match because of the send-off of Argentina's captain by a Russian referee. I thought it was very, very, very strange setup. But anyhow, that was my introduction to the 1966 World Cup.
Wow, and with jet lag too. Totally jet lagged.
There was a bit of jet lag.
Now that goal by Jeff Hurst in the 78th minute was interesting because he replaced Jimmy Greaves, who was injured in that game, and the cross he got was from Peters, who was also a West Ham United player. So the commentators on that game, not that I was around at that time, but I was actually able to watch this match on FIFA Plus. If any of you go to FIFA Plus, you'll be able to watch the entirety of the match. And I thought it was really interesting. It was like, there was West Ham was a good team at the time, and the commentators talk about the West Ham connection, Jeff Hurst's goal, and nothing's changed in the game. Players were still rolling around and feigning injury. But I thought the Argentina rivalry was based on the the Falkland Islands. When that happened. But watching that game, I was thinking, no, I think this is the origin of the Argentina versus England rivalry. So much for that particular game, like you mentioned, was so tough that Alfie, Sir Alfred Ramsey, who was the England coach, refused the interchanging of shirts by the players. And
I don't recall that, but I'm not surprised, because he was, not that I ever met the gentleman, but he always come across as a very level-headed, well-respected master of the game.
Yeah. But the other thing is that it was interesting listening to the commentaries at the 70th minute, 8 minutes before the Jeff Hurst goal. They're already talking about extra time. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's 20 minutes left. Anything can happen. But I think when that, putting it from that aspect, that angle, I think that was quite interesting for them to be talking about extra time with 20 minutes to go. You probably wouldn't get that same talk. Perhaps they were not hopeful of an England goal, but anyway, I thought it was interesting. Now, the other thing in the World Cup, you remember these things? The clackers or the rattles.
Oh, the clackers, yes. I brought about, not that the one with England on it, but I brought about half a dozen home when I eventually come back to Australia. And I used to hand them out on game day, and it was hilarious.
There you go. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
But
the last I saw of the clackers that I had was that my last game of football in my 30s, when I played for Cooks Hill, and we had some very, very keen supporters, and I had 2 left, and I gave them out, and didn't they make a racket with those? And we had a similar result to England and Argentina. Cooks Hill was the team I was playing for at the time, and we won 1-0.
Wow, there you go. What a coincidence. 1-0. But upon researching clackers, the one you see in the image is a single clacker, but they had a stack of 3 in the one clacker. So I'm assuming like a triples clacker or rattle would have made even more of
a lot of noise,
a sound. And the whole aspect of that was to create that wall of sound for to disrupt the opposition and stuff during the game. But I think they sort of faded out by the start of the 70s. The grounds started to not allow them in because they were pretty heavy things and they could have been used for
weapons.
Yeah. So but that's definitely something that I tied to England '66, the clackers, everyone using the clackers and stuff. Yeah. So you arrive in London. How long were you in London for? Or did you stay a few days and then make your way to Bristol?
Yes, I stayed about a week, and to do all the natural tourist things, go to Buckingham Palace and walk down the Thames and all the things that you do as a tourist. And I had about a week there before I caught a train to Bristol.
Okay, cool. And you, where did you stay in Bristol? Was it?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting experience because I was arriving unheralded. I didn't expect to have the guard of honour or anything when I turned up. So I've got all the details about how to get to Bristol, and that was go to Paddington and get on a train to Bristol. And of course, in those days, when you arrived in Bristol, it was that grand old structure called Templemeads. And so I picked up my 2 suitcases, and first taxi that I came to, I said, could you take me to Eastville Soccer Ground, please? Which he did. And then I strolled down to the office and walked in and introduced myself. And within a couple of minutes, I was sitting in the Bert Tann's office having a quiet chat.
Oh, nice. Awesome. And that's where he gave you where you'll be staying and
where I was staying.
I've got some pictures here of some of the digs, I think.
Okay, well, the bottom right photograph is Mrs. Hazel. Well, that's Hazel. Mrs. Hazel there and her son Graham behind her. The one alongside is Frankie Prince. And the residence to the right, that's Monks Park Parade, and that's where I was in, as they say in the classics in England, I was in digs there for several months. And the place above was the last place I stayed at, but that was Peter Barnes's sister, Sylvia. And I got to know Sylvia and Art very well, and she said, "You've got to come and stay with us." And this was after I come home from my father's funeral and went back. And so I lived with Arthur and Syl from November to the end of the season. And we stayed in contact up until their death. And one of the loveliest times ever was when Arthur and Syl, with their sister, with Syl's sister, Mari, flew out to Australia to see friends and relatives. And they stayed with my wife and I at Belmont for a couple of days, and then I took them up to Port Macquarie to meet my mother, because Mum desperately wanted to meet Sylv, because Sylv treated me like a son.
Yeah.
And it was just a wonderful experience.
Yeah. When you were there, did you get a job? Did you?
Yes. So it was one of those occasions where you get a bit cautious when the manager comes out and says, "Jim, can I have a word?" And we go into the office, and he said, "Look," he said, excuse me. He said, "What we're going to do," he said, "is sign you on as a part-timer." He said, "So you may have to find work to supplement your income." And if I remember correctly, Nick, it was something like £10 or £20 a week Rovers were paying me as a part-timer.
Right.
And so I trotted myself out to the British Aircraft Corporation at Filton and started work there as a mechanical fitter, working on the Concord jet of all planes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go. Is that early? I didn't realise they were already working on that at that stage.
Yeah, they were building two at the time, one in Filton at the British Aircraft Corporation and one in France.
In Toulouse.
And I had the pleasure of working on the one in Filton.
Wow. That's a surprise. I didn't know that. So that's amazing. So, okay. So you go to digs, and then where did you train? There was a place called the Downs. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the pre-season training, because like nearly all football clubs, they want to keep the ground, their playing surface in pristine condition.
Yep.
And so our pre-season training was up at the Downs. And you'd go to the change rooms, the normal grandstand change rooms, get changed, and then head up, head out to where the Downs were, which wasn't that far. It was only a 5-minute, 10-minute walk. And that's where we trained pre-season. And then once the season started, we trained on Eastville. And I can always remember this asphalt car park. And if it was lots of bad weather, instead of damaging the ground surface, we'd go up to the car park, or the ashes, as they called it. And that's where we'd train.
That's a properly named training ground for an Australian guy in England. The Ashes.
The Ashes. I did mention that a few times about Australia and the Ashes, yes.
And they didn't say much. I'm assuming they didn't win as often as Australia did. Oh, man. So did you know what position you were going to be playing in, or was that always obvious from the start?
No, my favourite position at that time back in Australia was playing in the back four. More so a full-back than a centre-back. I wasn't real wrapped in playing centre-back. Plus, I was a bit short. I'm not the tallest of stature, but right full-back suited me down to the ground, and that's where I played. And a couple of distinguished people who played on the inside of me. One was Larry Lloyd and Stuart Taylor, just to name two. And Lindsay Parsons or Alex Munro was usually the left fullback. And one of my counterparts in crime on the right wing was Ray Graydon. And we formed some good rapport between us all, you know, and played for each other as well as the club.
That's good. I hear that was it Alex Munro was a bit of a feisty fighter.
He was Scottish, right? Mate. Why wouldn't he be?
Oh, man.
Don't tell any of your viewers that I've got Scottish blood as well.
Oh, okay. I'll keep it a secret here. So, talking about Scotsmen, there was there a Scotsman that shared digs with you, or in the same place? And your first game of the season, something happened. Did you get a bit upset? Was it Ian Cuthbert?
That was a hilarious story.
Go on, tell us.
When I was introduced to Mrs. Hazel there to go into digs at her place, there was already one chap there, and his name was Ian Cuthbert, and he was Scottish. And as it turns out, which we found out in very quick time at training, we were both basically vying for the same position, which was right fullback. And we trained, and then it came to the first game of the season, and we're all sitting in the change room, and the boss, or Mr. Tann or Bert, depending on your relationship with him, he came out with the team sheet. And they announced the team, and I can only remember one position. That was right fullback, Jim Wood. And he went through the team. And then when he'd finished and headed back to his office, Ian Cuthbert stormed out of the change room following him. And they had a few words. And Ian Cuthbert was so upset that I got the start before him, that he tore up his, what can we call it, contract or registration form, tore it up on the spot, stormed out and never saw him again. The sad part about it is he had a car I didn't, so he stormed off and drove back to Mrs. Hazel's to get his belongings and head back to Scotland. And I had to catch a couple of buses to get home. But anyhow, that's another story.
Didn't you see him later in Australia, though? Or was it...
I didn't see him, but following the Sydney football and reading it in the papers of the weekend, I saw his name mentioned in one particular season, and I don't know what season and I don't remember what team. But he did come to Australia, and he did play out here for at least one season.
Oh, okay.
In Sydney.
Apologies. I thought you actually saw him play, but yeah, no. that was interesting. So I think maybe this was the first game, wasn't it? Away to Bournemouth and Boscombe Athletic.
Yes, Bournemouth.
Yeah, and that's where Ian Cuthbert saw that the name Wood. That's it. I'm out of here.
Yep.
So this is interesting because back in those days, you played the team, and then that team came to visit you straight afterwards, or it appears that's the case here based on the dates on these two starting 11s. And you had an interesting bus trip to Bournemouth. It was a hot day. And you wouldn't be able to do it these days, but tell us about it.
Well, it was, as you said, it was very, very hot for the English. It was just... It was just a bit more than mild of getting into a warm day by Australian standards. And poor old Alex Munro, Scottish man, he was finding it very, very difficult. And I'm trying to think of the bus driver's name, whether it was Ernie or Archie.
Was it Reggie?
Sorry?
Reggie? Was it Reggie?
Reggie, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
That's it. Yeah, thanks. I was there, you think?
Anyhow, Reggie opens the door, and Alex sat on the step to try and get as much ventilation as possible to keep his temperature down. And I just
Whilst the
never
bus
forget
was
that.
moving.
Yes, of course. Oh, yeah.
Oh dear. Can you imagine that nowadays? That's amazing.
There was another interesting story about the bus driver and being Reggie. Johnny Petts, he was a character. And he would come round on the trip back home on all away games. And there was a shilling for Reggie. And he'd rather you give him a shilling in 1 penny pieces or 4 threepences or 2 sixpences than a 1 shilling, because he wanted to give him a fistful of change for our gratitude for driving us to and from safely.
Oh dear. Okay. Cool.
Things I'd never ever experienced in Australia.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's even when you go as a supporter to away days. There's always a collection at the end, maybe about an hour before you get to your final, with your home destination, and the cap or the bucket or whatever they use. That's quite a common thing. Cool, but no, that's one starting 11 match there. But I have this. You were featured in the Bristol Rovers versus Mansfield Town. I can't see the date. October the 15th,
Well,
I think. Just before.
I've got the program out this morning, and it's October the 15th, 1966. And you know what's significant about that? That's 6 days before I got that phone call from Australia to tell me that my father, as well as 4 other men, had been killed in that mine accident in Newcastle. Yeah, one week before. It's ironic. And then that was on the Saturday, of course, and then the following Friday I was on my way back to Australia.
They said he saved hard for 2 years and got a job locally. And did they give you a nickname at all, or did they call you names or what?
Oh, Roo was the common one for Australians.
Right. Okay. Roo. Okay.
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I do like that. I do like that picture there. I've got a slightly better picture here, and then that's the other one on the right hand side with the official blazer or thing.
Yep.
That Bristol Rovers badge. I had to put a copy of the Bristol Rovers badge in the sort of centre bottom, because that's probably the city coat of arms, is it?
Oh, I think that's the case, yes.
Yeah.
And my Rovers tie.
Yeah.
I've still got my Rovers tie, and I've still got my badge. The blazer has gone to a better home, but I've still got the badge and the tie.
Yeah, the blazer got ruined in the dry cleaners maybe one day. No worries.
Yeah, that was a photograph that I had done and sent home to my mother after I went back to England in November.
Okay, cool. So in England or in Bristol, they gave players a certain booklet. And
yes, the players' rules and fixtures, yes.
And it's got a player's ticket. What did you have to flash this anywhere to get discounts, or what did you do with it?
Well, being a highly paid professional in England, and looking around for delightful English ladies, and you would invite them to go to the movies, and it was always nice to be able to flash that and get in for nothing. So that's the Scottish blood coming out in me.
Oh dear, the movies. Now there was a movie that was released in around about that time, an Australian movie.
Oh, they're a weird mob with
That's
Nino Colotta. Yes.
Yeah.
I went to see that in Bristol, and there was a moderately full there, and the real in Australian jokes and quotes and sayings, when they come out in the movie, I was the only one laughing. Nobody else could see the funny side of it. But the one part that really gets me is if you go to a pub or a club and there's, say, 3 or 4 of you, and usually somebody says, "I'll shout first," and then when you've had that one, they'll say, "Oh, it's your shout," and that means you go and buy the beers. Because I remember in the film, well, we've got Nino in the Bat and Ball pub in Sydney, and they'd all had their first round of beers, and they said, "Okay, Nino, it's your shout." He said, "But I don't want to shout." "But it's your shout. You've got to bloody shout, mate." Eventually, somebody took him aside and said, "You have to go and buy a round of beers for all your mates." Oh.
Of course, yeah.
His introduction to Australian slang.
That's right. Yeah, he was an Italian, wasn't he? So
that's correct. Yes,
part of learning the ropes and stuff. Yeah,
it's amazing how many of the Italian heritage, even in Newcastle, are still concreters. It's amazing.
Because that's what he did. Yeah, he was a labourer. Yeah. If anyone doesn't know the movie you were talking about, it's called A Weird Mob. It was released, I think it was 66, 67.
That's correct.
Same season as Jim was in England. It's a classic Australian movie. I've seen it a couple of times. I've actually got the DVD. Someone gifted it to me. So, I had a bit of a laugh as well, being half Spanish. I thought of like, this would be the case. Spanish would probably do the exact same thing. So yeah, I could relate. But awesome. So you were in the reserves for Bristol Rovers, and did you get to train with the full team, with the first team at all, or often?
Before I started work at the British Aircraft Corporation, the answer is yes. And after that, it was mainly I'd train at night with the reserves. Right. Because I'd be at the British Aircraft Corporation through the daylight hours, Yeah. But if there was something special come up, I'd get an invitation or be advised to be there, such and such a day at training time. But until I started work part at British Aircraft Corporation, we all trained together, and sometime it was on Eastville or up at the Downs. Nice. Of course, when winter come along and you had to train under lights, well, there was no lights at the Downs, so you had to train on the ground. But one of the things that was new to me, it was on a Friday after training. Training only went for a short period of time. And then while the manager and others were selecting the teams for the weekend, the players would go out with a couple of bins and you'd select teams and you'd all put a shilling in or 2 shillings in, and your teams would have to try and chip the ball into the bin until you got a winning team, and they would collect all the money and everybody would be happy. I was one of the last selected because my chipping skills weren't up to the standard of the locals.
You just wanted to boot the ball out of the defence,
out of the ground. Yeah.
I've got this. This is a really cool picture here with yourself, and both. It's a combination reserves and first team.
That is correct.
So there'll be a few familiar faces there for sure. We'll be touching on one-on-one players in a minute, but I thought that was that a usual practice for football teams in England to do a combined full club picture, or maybe it was just a Bristol?
I don't really know. In the day that the time I was in Bristol, there was a paper called the Graydon, and the amount of coverage of Bristol City and Bristol Rovers in the Graydon was phenomenal. And I can still remember that day well, going down there. putting on the gear to have the photo taken, and it's just nice to look back in there and we'll see Bernard Hall's next door to me, you know. Ray Graydon's there, Frankie Prince is there, and well, who can ever forget Harold Jarman and Alfie Biggs.
Yeah.
And there's Mr. Tann on the far right, and another two gentlemen there is Bill Dodgen and Bobby Campbell. They were the latter two were very strong mentors to me. They really spent a lot of time with me with tips and just general advice and general looking after. You know, like I was a bit of a son to them. You know, they were wonderful gentlemen.
Nice. Well, we mentioned Bert Tann. I've got a picture here. Finding pictures of Bert Tann wasn't easy on the internet, so I had to resort to this fantastic. Actually, I'll show the book first. This fantastic book, the official definitive story by Mike J and Stephen Byrne. Thanks very much. So if you're a Rovers fan, you definitely need that. That's almost like a.
Did you say Mike J?
Mike J, yes.
Yeah, I knew Mike.
Yeah, he loves anything that's to do with history and stuff, and he's written a few books. So he's written a few, I think he's written a few books about Bert Tann as well and stuff. But the picture to the left is the one I found in the book, and then there's someone's actually had looked like a portrait picture. To me, I first thought Bert Tann was in his pajamas or something, but that was obviously I think that's an England badge there, actually, and he's got the gas emitters in the background. We can see half of one. That was very much Bristol.
That's an interesting thing you just brought up then about the the gas heaters. It was like when they called the Australian troops in Africa the rats of Trabuc, and it was then accepted as a term of endearment, and people are very proud of if they were a rat of Trabuc, and being a gashead, that was meant to be demoralising or not a term of endearment, but the local supporters took it on as a term of endearment, and a lot of my passwords I use gashead.
We'll rub that bit out.
Oh yes, but there's a few other
different variations.
Yeah, the gas heads. Yeah,
that's interesting. So you mentioned the gas heads. You mentioned about training on the ashes. So was the smell of gas prevalent? Was it noticeable?
It was the same old story, depending which way the wind was blowing. Okay. Now I don't recall. I'll take a punt and say that was on the eastern side of the ground. I don't really remember. However, if the breeze was blowing towards the Eastville, then you smelt the gas. If it was blowing any other direction, you didn't smell it.
Right. Okay. I'll just switch from that to Eastville. So I've got an aerial picture from April '67, and so you've got what looks like a river to the right-hand side. You've got something to enable the river to flow through.
And that was a stormwater canal.
Stormwater canal, and then to the
north canal, yeah.
Then you see a little white circle to the north of the ground, assuming that was the gasometer. I've got a better picture here, which is a portrait from Caroline Winpenny. So I thought I'd just give Caroline a shout out. And you can see very clearly the gasometer in the background there. But yeah, whichever way it's facing, I think this is quite a beautiful picture of Eastville. And that's how I remember it when looking at it from a distance from Fishponds Road, as I was going down Fishponds Road.
Oh, that brings back memories. Fishponds Road, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long road I used to frequent there quite often. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it's not there. I'll just go back. Actually, no, we'll touch on the greyhound. Was there a greyhound track there when you were? When
That is correct. If you played on a Saturday, whether it was the first team or the reserve team, and as you would remember, there was only ever one game. You didn't have like Australia where they played 4 games, on match day. In those days in England, there was just the one game. And whether the reserves played or whether the first team played there, but by the time you walked off the pitch at the end of the game, had your bath, not a shower, and was leaving the ground, the ground staff would be installing the wire fence and the hair for the greyhound meeting that night.
Wow. Did you ever bet on the dogs?
Oh, I did go a couple of times, but I've never been a punter. I don't say I haven't had a bet, but I went a few times and we mainly met up with Rovers players, and we had a night out at the races. And then you go over to the supporters club to have a few beers.
Nice.
And hope you wouldn't be dobbed into the manager.
That's why I switched straight back to Bert Tann, because you mentioned, can I have a word about the job situation? But tell us about the can I have a word with the pub situation?
Yeah, well, when I was living with Arthur and Sylvia, Sylvia had a sister who was married. I can't remember the gentleman's name now. And after games or midweek, we'd just go down to one of the local hotels and have a couple of pints. And I turned up for training this particular occasion, and Mr. Tann, as we called him, or the man or boss, came out of his little office and said, "Jim, can I have a word?" And I was warned.
Salary increase straight away.
I was warned that usually it's not to give you a pat on the back. And he did mention that he'd received several phone calls that that Aussie bloke and a couple of others were at the pub, this certain pub, and scoffing down a few beers. And he just wanted to remind me that the reputation of Australians is that they're hard drinkers. And if I wanted to have a future in soccer, I should think twice about it. And when I went home and told Sylvia's brother-in-law what had happened, he said, "Oh, that's easy fixed." He said, "We'll just go over to Cardiff." And so he'd pick me up and we'd go over the new Severn Bridge at those days and have a couple of beers in Cardiff. Never got dobbed in again.
You had to change countries to have a beer. Literally. Oh dear. Luckily, there wasn't any passport control or anything like that.
But it wasn't as if we'd get, blind, as they say. I think this is only an Australian quote, blind drunk, We're just, 2 or 3 schooners, or pints, I should say, not schooners.
Yeah.
And but it was just to be seen out and then be reported in. It was a no-no, so you avoided the situation.
Avoid, yeah. Cool. What was Bert Tann like as a manager?
What's interesting is that you did not see a lot of him. You certainly saw a lot of him after training and pre-training, after games, before games, but his assistants were the ones that did all the hard yakka out on the park. Like I had more association as far as learning the game and learning all about looking after yourself, whatever. I learnt more from Bobby Campbell and Bill Dodgen than Bert Tann. Bert was, to me, I can only say I'd call him a typical manager, is that you'd see him at the most important times.
Yeah.
And certainly match day, he was very prominent. But most of the hard yards, to me, was done by the assistants.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where we did have a little bit in common was that his old playing partner from Middlesbrough days was Tommy Dawson, because they played together, and I think they both played in the one team when Middlesbrough won the FA Cup.
Mm. Yeah. And do you find Tom Dawson was more hands-on?
Yes.
Different. Yeah.
Totally different. He would turn up. I'll quote you the couple of seasons I played under him in Newcastle. We would train because we're all workers. There was no full-time professionals. So you would turn up, start training at 7 o'clock at night till 9 or 9:30. So you'd be there at 6:30 to get changed and go out and start warming up. And Tommy Dawson was out there in his tracksuit and his football boots, raring to go.
Mm.
And he participated much more than my experience with Bert Tann.
Bert Tann, yeah. Cool. So you actually played alongside some pretty cool Bristol Rovers legends. So this section, we're just going to show a few slides and just tell me what you remember about them, and any stories that you might have. So first of all, I can't go past Alfie Briggs. So this is Alfie. So tell me how was Alfie?
He was a legend. Yeah, Alfie was had a notorious reputation in Bristol. However, many times he would just come up to you on the side and have a word about try this or try that, or don't do this or don't do that. He was a very quiet mentor, away from the character that just about everybody thought that Alfie Briggs was. And he certainly was a talented player. He was a defender's nightmare, in my opinion. But I had a lot of time for Alfie Briggs.
Nice. Then we've got Bernard.
Bernard, oh dear.
Yes.
A thorough gentleman. And I was there the day he received that shocking injury which ruined his career and probably led to his recent passing.
Yeah. Well, he got knocked out completely, didn't he? And
yes, that's correct.
He was in hospital for a very long time. I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that against Middlesbrough?
I don't recall exactly.
No, I can't remember. But yeah. Okay. Next we have Harold Jarman.
Harold Jarman, the Prince of Wingers. Yes, Harold was certainly the Eastville favourite. He'd get that ball on the left side, and if he got round one or two of the defenders, the crowd would go absolutely berserk. And if he scored, they went even madder. He was another very, very supportive and nice person.
Yeah. Then we have a legend. They're all legends, really, but this one's Larry Lloyd.
Larry Lloyd, yes. Yes.
I think the one on the left is the only Bristol picture I could find of him. I think the one in the centre is when he could still be Bristol, but I think it's more like Liverpool or something.
Yeah.
But, was he in the reserves to start off with?
I played quite a few games with him in reserves. It was either him or Stuart Taylor that was the centre back, depending on injuries, availability, or whatever, But I played a few games with Larry.
Yeah. What was he like?
That's interesting, Nick. There was no one that was really aggressive towards me, though everybody was very pleasant and helpful.
Yeah.
One of the, I think it's it's just a coincidence. I shouldn't say coincidence. it's just one of those things there. He had a sister that worked in the office at Bristol Rovers, and she was very, very helpful for anything I needed to know or needed help on. And she probably, I'm assuming, she said to Larry, you know, if Jim needs a hand, look after him. And he did, you know. Cooperation between us as centre-back and full-back. And I was never surprised when he got the start at Liverpool because just the talent that he had. He was a gentle giant. I think a lot of opposition forwards knew when they were tackled if Larry was at the end of it.
Yeah.
But just a nice bloke.
Nice bloke all rounder.
And is that him on the far right, is it?
I think so, yes. A few years later and a few...
a few years later.
A few barbecues later, I was going to say. He's got a Bristol Rovers cap there, so yeah, I tried to find an early and a late picture of the player. But yeah, it's nice that the players come back to the original, you know, the original club after all. Because Larry won trophies with Liverpool. Then he won European Cups and leagues with Nottingham Forest. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of success, and it's all about being in the right place at the right time, I suppose, and signing for the right team, having the right manager and stuff, and
the right attitude.
Yes, that's very important. Yeah. No worries. I've got here Ray Graydon.
Yes, Ray was the most of the games I played in reserves. Ray was right wing. I was right fullback, and he also was a part timer when I was there. He was an electrician by trade, if I remember correctly. But I was never surprised that he went on to a first division club. But very talented winger, very fast, good skills, and I had a good association with Ray.
Yeah, no worries. And then we have a certain Ronny
Briggs, the mad Irishman.
He was the goalkeeper, is that right?
That is correct, yes. He was a massive size, and he was just good fun, Ronnie, and pretty handy too as a goalkeeper. There's no doubt about that.
Was he the main goalkeeper, or were the other goalkeepers also trying to vie for that position? Or
I don't recall. There would have been a third and fourth goalkeeper, but I only remember Bernard and Ronnie.
Right. Okay. No worries. We've got a very special player here. And I think we'll give him some homage. This is Ian Hamilton. A young picture of Ian Hamilton and a slightly older picture of Ian.
There we are. You're back.
I'm back. Yes, in and out. Ian Hamilton. So this is a very special person in your life, isn't he?
Yes, he very talented inside forward. I played quite a few games with Ian if he hadn't been selected in the first team. But on that fateful Friday when I got news at about 10 o'clock in the morning that my father had been killed in a mine accident, and the club rang Australia, and I talked to my aunt, and she gave me the information that the local RSL club in Swansea, where we lived in Newcastle, had paid for a ticket from London to Sydney, and it was going to be available at Heathrow. I had to turn up at the counter and identify myself, and there was my ticket home.
Mm.
And when I was making arrangements to get back to my digs in Monks Park Parade in Filton, Ian makes himself available to drive me to London to catch the plane.
Wow.
And I was indebted to him ever since, because that was a wonderful gesture. And he picked me up at Mrs. Hazel's place and drove me to Heathrow. And as I said, indebted forever. It was a wonderful, wonderful gesture for somebody that I didn't know that well. But that was a humanity coming out in a wonderful person.
Yeah. So you get back to Australia, and you obviously spend the time to grieve and be with your family and stuff. So how did this affect your playing career afterwards? Was this definitely a before and after moment, or
It certainly was. Let's go back before the 21st of October, and things were going well. And Chris, in those days, there was no such thing as the internet or emails or whatever. So it was postal letters, which took probably a week to get from one side of the world to the other. But my parents were starting to drop hints that they were thinking about coming over in the holiday period in Australia for coal miners, and that was from just before Christmas to the middle of January. And there was with his departure, the desire to do well and probably get a career in English soccer, the drive just wasn't there. And instead of being a regular in reserves, I was in and out. And if I wasn't playing the reserves, I was playing in the A team. And I was the only child, so my mum was living on her own, but she had sisters that lived close by. And just reading between the lines that even though Mum encouraged me to go back after the funeral and that sort of thing, she wanted me to do well, but it just wasn't the same, because Dad was my mentor from when I was 8 until his passing. And so I just made the executive decision that at the end of the season, I'd go back to Oz and just have all these fond memories of Bristol Rovers.
Yeah.
And Ian Hamilton.
Yes, yeah. What a guy. So so you go back you're back in Newcastle now. Who do you play for? You obviously want to continue playing football.
Yeah, well, the club that the first division club that I played for before I went to England was Lake Macquarie in the Northern New South Wales Soccer Federation. Northern New South Wales is split into two areas, Northern New South Wales and New South Wales. And so from the Hawkesbury River to the Queensland border, that's like a separate state in the soccer world. That's Northern New South Wales. And of course, from the Hawkesbury to the Victorian border is New South Wales. And so Lake Macquarie plays in the Northern New South Wales Federation, and that's who I spent my time with till I was in my mid to late 20s, when I decided that I needed to get further qualifications in my employment with the Electricity Commission of New South Wales. And so I pulled the pin at 28, and at that stage retired from playing first division soccer so that I could go back to college and get my engineering certificate, as they call it, which was today's standards probably is called an associate diploma in mechanical engineering.
But before you did that, you had a very, very impressive friendly against a certain team from Manchester.
Well, it wouldn't be Manchester United you're referring to, would it, Nick?
Let me have a check. Let me just check this. Oh, yes, it is Manchester United. Australian
Yes.
Tour 1967. How on earth do you get to play against arguably the world's best players, being a local Newcastle lad? Is it through that Lake Macquarie football team?
Well, with these touring teams like Manchester United, and the next year, I think, if I got my facts right, I think Manchester City come out. Oh, no, the next year Cardiff City come out. That's correct. As I say, they're a state on their own, and so the Australian Federation would give us a game. They're like, I mean, when I say us, I mean the area. And so it was planned that one of the games that Manchester United would play would be in Newcastle against Northern New South Wales representative team. And I was selected in that team to play against Manchester United. And just to drop a few names on the day, of course, Mr. Charlton played. And I have a wonderful photograph of me chasing Mr. Charlton. George Best played.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just cracking a joke there. Bobby. I was saying, I think you dropped out. I think it was you chasing Bobby Charlton. I asked whether it was the other way around, whether Bobby was chasing.
No, I was chasing Bobby Charlton. Nobby Stiles played. Alex Stepney was the goalkeeper. Tony Dunne, that's who I was trying to think of. He was the other fullback, the opposite me. I've got to tell you the story.
Go for it.
We were encouraged to play, because that was the way it was being played in Europe, overlapping fullbacks. And I was playing right fullback for Northern New South Wales. And so I'd overlap the winger and he'd pass me the ball, and Tony Dunne would be between me and Manchester goals. And he would position himself as any good fullback would, so that I was kept out wide. And then he'd start the talk. Cross it or I'll take it off you. Cross it or I'll take it off you. He talked me right out of the whole scene, because you'd cross it and you'd be a little bit intrepid when you was doing it, and it wouldn't be the best cross, and Alex Stepney would just catch the ball and say thank you very much, and they'd go on the attack again. But yeah, Tony Dunne, cross it or I'll take it off you.
Was that
Brian Kidd, John Ashton, they were another two blokes that come to mind.
And a certain George Best there.
Yes, Georgie Best, he played that day.
Wow. So what's it like playing against these players? I mean, you'd mentioned
frightening.
Dunne, but really?
In a word, frightening. It's just because of their reputation, And right. You know that if you close them down, that they're not going to panic and their ball skills let them down like it does in the local competition, And so you was always soon to be chasing air. 1 minute the ball was there, the next minute it wasn't,
Wow. I've got these pictures that you've referred to. So we've got I put 4. So Now you are which number are you?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah.
So the top left one there, that's a young bloke called Horst Snyder, myself and Mr. Charlton. And then the next one on the right is Brian Kidd, who's cutting the ball away from me with a fella by the name of Ray Lloyd in the rear. And then that's Brian Kidd again, I think, in the bottom left, with Bobby Charlton behind.
Yep.
And then there's myself, Bobby Charlton. I can't think of the other fella's name. He was a Scotsman. And Brian Kidd there. And of course,
So I said that last bit again. You cut out.
I haven't got any photos of another young bloke who was very prominent for Manchester United in that time, John Ashton.
John Ashton. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. No.
But as we know, Brian Kidd went on to be a manager. But
right.
I don't know what his whereabouts are these days.
Okay. Yeah.
And as we all know, unfortunately, which you can't avoid, Mr. Charlton passed away last year, was it? Or the year before?
Yeah. Not too long ago. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I always remember a quote of Bobby Charlton when asked what makes a successful club, and he said, "Give the fans what they want." And that was quite.
He came out a couple of times after that event, that game, and when Newcastle first went into the National League with KB United, and Alan Vest was the manager, and he invited Bobby to come out a couple of times to play as a guest player and also to do a bit of promotion, soccer promotion and coaching. I met him all up. I met Bobby Charlton probably 3 or 4 times.
Nice.
Of course, he didn't have a clue who I was, and I understand that.
The great Jim Wood. Come on.
But he was always a thorough gentleman. Always. Always courteous. Always, and something you've just basically just mentioned. He was a listener. If you had something to say, he would listen. And then when he was sure that you'd finished saying what you wanted to say, then he might make a comment. But a thorough gentleman.
Nice. Well, I'll go back to that photo I had of the late Macquarie. So this is where you ended your
first division career.
First division career.
Yeah, that was in
when you were 25 or something, to pursue, the actual electrical engineering career.
Yep.
Tell me about your last game, because that ties in nicely with how it all started. I'll let you.
Yeah, well, when I was 27 was the last year I played with Lake Macquarie, because I went back to college at 28. And when I was 30 or 31, one of my neighbours, he was coaching one of the local football teams called Cooks Hill. And it was not in the Northern New South Wales First Division, it was in the Northern New South Wales Second Division. And we were near neighbours, and he said to me on quite a few occasions, come and have a game, come and have a game. We've dropped out again, I'll wait.
Yep, no, you're back again.
Oh, again. Back, okay.
Come and have a game, come and have a game. Yep.
So off I go and start training. And he said, what position do you want to play? I said, somewhere where I shouldn't get hurt. I said, so I'm not playing fullback. I said, I'm not going to be a runner, so I'm not playing midfield. I said, centre forward suits me fine. And so I did. Anyhow, I'd have to look at the photos to try and remember what year it was. But anyhow, we make the grand final. And of all grounds, we're playing on the ground where I started my career at. Either, if you're an old identity, it's Young Wallsend. And if you're the modern identity, it's Edgeworth. And so out we go to play at Edgeworth against Hamilton Azuri. No, it was one of the ethnic clubs in Newcastle. Somebody Olympic, I can't recall. I'd have to go and try and find a photograph or something. Anyhow, the interesting thing is, even with the experience and the time that I played, and you're playing in a division that was basically below the standard when you was at your best, you find that there's a lot of the blokes are very limited in their a lot of their abilities, and you can talk some of them out of the game, and you can easily get people to follow you out of play. And this is what I was doing playing centre forward. I spent probably only about 60% of the time in that position. The rest of the time I was either out far on the right or out on the far left or back in midfield. So I didn't have a permanent marker that followed me everywhere I went. And I can still so distinct. We get a direct free kick at halfway. Our centre back, I should say, puts a long ball forward. The other centre forward heads it on, and the sweeper collects the ball. But he didn't know where I was because I'd been out on the wing. And as I was watching the play go forward, I started going into the centre. And so nobody was marking me. And he didn't have a clue that I was anywhere near him. And so he laid the ball back for the goalkeeper. And I just said, thank you very much. Fainted to place the ball to the goalkeeper's left. And, of course, as soon as he moved left, I slotted it right. Thank you very much, 1-0. And that was the end of my career.
Wow. Wow, what a way to end. Oh, amazing. Yeah, well, it's been a great career, hasn't it? I mean, it's I think topping it off with the goal in that last game and meeting everyone that you've met. Is there any other thing you'd like to say, or maybe a message to Bristol Rovers fans or the club or anything at all?
We're getting back to the career for one moment. When Australia were going into World Cup elimination games, they'd often come up and play Northern New South Wales at my ground, Spears Point. And one of the fellas that I got to know reasonably well through those games was Johnny Warren.
Oh, yeah.
Who unfortunately passed away some years ago now. But he was one of Australia's best. And he played in the same time as Ray Bartz, Cole Curran, just to name a couple of local blokes that I knew very well. But
Johnny Warren was another
sorry?
Yeah, Johnny Warren was another gentleman of the game.
Yeah,
A friend who was close to him, and he said he was just a gentleman. He was a really nice, decent bloke. Yeah.
The thing I hated about playing against him was I was classified as very quick. He was quicker. So, again, you had to use your knowledge that you've gained over the years of making them, as Tony Dunne did, make them go down the line and try and keep between them and the goals. And but it was always a wonderful challenge to have to play against him because you had to be at your best.
I bet it was, yeah.
But to anyone that's starting out in the game that's got potential, it's very simple. If you have a goal, go for it. However, if you're going to play any professional sport or even any high-class amateur sport, you have got to discipline yourself to for your body. Look after your legs or your and certainly your lungs and that sort of thing, and listen to people who have been there and done that. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And there's always lots of people that want to help. If you ask for help. And Tom Dawson was one of those persons. You could go up to him and say, Tommy, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation?
Yeah. And I guess these days a lot of people rely on other things or social media for answers and things. But yeah, that's great advice. So, James, you've dropped out again, I think. But any other messages? Maybe a message for the Bristol Rovers fans at all, or keep believing, I suppose.
Yes, keep believing. It's like the rugby league coach for South Sydney. Come on, Nick, you must know who I'm talking
I
about.
don't know South, sorry.
Anyhow, he's been interviewed once, and it was said to him about another win with whoever he was coaching at the time. Another win. And I can remember this day he said yes. He said, "There's one thing about another win: you're closer to your next defeat."
Interesting.
And I thought, yeah, that is very true, very true.
It is. Cool. Well, Jim, unless you have anything else to say, I'm deeply honoured to have being able to have the privilege to share your history and share your knowledge. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, thanks.
Well, it's been go on.
Yeah, I always forget to say to people, like, comment, and subscribe down below in the video, because I'm so involved and so stuck into the interview. I just forget to ask people to like the channel and comment, and because that's just me. But no, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nick, and it is nice to refresh those wonderful memories of 1966 and 1967.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Cheers,
Take
mate.
care. Bye.
Bye.